All right, we're on air. Hi, this is Lazarus Returns, or Eric Frankhouse, like it says on the bottom of the screen from Refresh and Reload. We are here today with Legendary Games. We're going to be talking over their new Kickstarter that has 4 days left to go. They've already hit their goal, so there's no question if you're going to get the product, it's just going to be how much you get. And we're going to go over why it's really different than what you see from most compatible Pathfinder adventures and 5th edition adventures that are on the market right now. So we have Jason Nelson with us and Paris as well. Crenshaw, correct? That's the last name?
That's correct.
All right. So you guys know who I am. I'm not going to introduce myself any more than that because it just gets fucking redundant at this point. We're going to go ahead, Jason, if you kind of want to give a quick overview for yourself, and then we'll go to Paris after that.
Sure thing, Laz. Thanks. I've been working in the RPG business for about 14 years. I've freelanced for a long time with the Wizards of the Coast first, then with the Paizo later on, and I've written dozens of products for Paizo, almost all of their hardback line, and since 2011, I've also been part of Legendary Games. Clark Peters from Necromancer Games started the ball rolling with the idea of creating an all-star team of the best freelance you could find. And we got together and we started the company. I took it over in 2012 and running it ever since. We've got over 250 products out there in print and in PDF. This is our 4th Kickstarter, and we've got 4 hardbacks and tons of stuff. We started out mostly doing Pathfinder stuff, but we've got a few dozen 5th edition products out now and more coming out all the time. And we were very excited to put on this Trail of the Apprentice Kickstarter. It's something that I think is really neat. I mean, I started playing D&D back when I was 10 years old. And back at that time, it was kind of a fad, sure. But it also was something where there were a lot of kids playing, and there's actually sort of a resurgent interest in tabletop role-playing games, even picked up in like the New York Times and some other articles recently on it. My wife heard a story about it on NPR just this morning. And kids are interested in this, and I think it's a great time to talk about continuing to bring people into the hobby. Because, look, I'm in my mid-40s now, and if we only play with each other, pretty soon we're going to be just playing all the way to our grave, which is nice that we'll have a hobby in the retirement home. But
Right.
But it's a great thing to play with new people, whether those are kids, whether those are other adults. But I don't know that we've always done the best job of creating good on-ramps into the hobby. And so that's part of what we're working on here. We'll talk about that some more later as we go along. But this was really Paris's idea originally. So, well, I could talk about all the great things Legendary Games, and we've got a lot of great cool stuff out there. Please do check out our website at makeyourgamelegendary.com for Pathfinder work, for 5e stuff. But as far as this particular product, this is really Paris's brainchild, and we had talked about it a little bit off and on. It's something he's been percolating on for years, literally. But it just kind of came up in conversation last fall, and we were tinkering around with the idea of creating some more products, especially for younger gamers or other beginning gamers. And we started out with one, test adventure, and then Paris said, I have this bigger project. I was thinking about trying to publish it myself. I don't know, and so I said, well, let me see it. And I looked through it and said, you know what? This could really work. So we talked through it, and that's where Trail of the Apprentice was born. So I'll let Paris introduce himself and introduce the project, too.
Okay. So what you got, Paris?
Thanks, sir. So about me, I don't have quite the years of experience that Eric does in the industry. I've been gaming for a long time, probably since the mid '80s. But really, from a publishing standpoint, I mean, I did some initial freelance stuff back when I was in college. But really, over the past 8 or 9 years or so, almost 10, I've been doing freelance writing. Started off working for Wayfinder. Just doing some amateur publishing for the fanzine. Did some editing for them. And when I started really getting serious about, okay, I want to start writing stuff, it was around the time that the Pathfinder Beginner Box was coming out.
Oh, wow. So really recent then.
Fairly recently, yeah.
In
terms of, it's been a little longer than that, I think. I want to say that it was somewhere around 2000. Yeah, 2012, 2011, 2012.
That just means I'm getting old. I turned 35 last Monday, so I'm just...
Yeah, that's not old.
We don't have to step it up a bit. We're way older than you.
makes me look like I'm old.
So yeah, as far as the stuff that I have written, I've done several publications. I've worked in several publications for Paizo. I did some work for Savage Mojo. I have a couple of credits in products from Clockwork Gnome Publishing. And then, of course, I'm also the assistant. Now I'm the assistant editor-in-chief for Wayfinder Magazine. So
congrats.
I do that.
My buddy Todd does artwork for them.
Oh yeah, well we love our artists.
I love their artists too. I got to tell you, the Wayfinder guys have given me a lot of great artists. If you're interested in getting in the RPG business, Wayfinder is a great way to be seen and to get a good recommendation. Because when they tell me who are good people to work with, I talk to Tim, I talk to Paris, and say, who do you got coming up that's interesting to work with? And I've gotten some great people from them, and I've been happy to pay them lots of money to make lots of art.
Yep. Well, actually, that's one of the questions. We'll get into that later. I'll put that in our chat thing over to the right here for all of us to look at. We'll just have kind of a running question here. So, all right, so we know how you started. How did you two get started with Legendary Games? Like, obviously, you own the company. Paris, well, how did this kind of meeting of minds come together to make this Kickstarter and obviously this adventure as well?
Well, I've been running Legendary Games, like I said, since about 2012, and it's kind of an invitation-only company. We find people that we know or that that we know. Start off, everybody was working for us with people who had done some major freelance work, so we could vet them and their talents or skills. But I'm always keeping an eye out for people who have interesting ideas and who do good work, and then I get a good recommendation for them. And Paris was somebody I had seen pop up every now and then on some of the Paizo projects that I was working on, and I kind of talked around, and they said, yeah, he does good work. I talked, to Tim Nightingale at Wayfinders, yeah. And in particular, it came up as I was interested in things for kids. Because I walked around Gen Con last year, and I noticed how very little there was out there in terms of gaming products.
Well, hold on a minute. They have the whole family gaming pavilion at Gen Con. Let's make it sound like for 62,000 people, there's nowhere for kids to go play. Because I ran through that on accident, and there's a lot of little kids.
All right, let me say it this way. Very little in the way of traditional role-playing games for kids.
That's true. It's a lot of board games.
Tons of games, very little in the way of the role-playing game arena. And that's something I thought, that could be an interesting area to explore. And in talking to Paris, we've been Facebook friends and stuff for a while. We kind of talked around some ideas, and he had an idea for an adventure that he ran, which he can tell you about in a sec. And I said, that sounds great. That is something I would totally love to publish. And so it really was, he already had something that he had mostly put together. And so I said, let me see what it is, and I'll start putting together the resources for it so we can put it together and make it look great. Marshall the artist, the layout, and everything. But the original material and the design was also something that Paris had already come up with. It was really a very cool story how he did it. So I'll let Paris take them.
Yeah, so, as far as my association with Legendary Games, like Eric said, what it really came from was there's another designer, doesn't work on Pathfinder stuff very much, but his name's Gary Asselford, and he runs a program called Dungeon Scouts.
What's that exactly? In short.
It is a program where Girl Scouts right now he's got Girl Scouts in his family, and just like I do, and it's basically where Girl Scouts can get a badge for role playing. He runs a workshop,
like an actual merit badge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Please tell me it's a D20 of some form.
It's a dragon with a D20 on it.
Excellent.
And,
I want one, even though I'm not a Girl Scout.
Yeah, it's really cool. So he came out to the house, and for our Girl Scout troop, ran a session on how to play a role playing game. My daughters have been familiar with it obviously for a while because I've played with them, but their friends had never done anything like that. So it was a good opportunity for them to kind of get something that my daughters really already knew something about and bring it to the whole group. And they had a blast. And after it was over, we had this idea of why don't we do a dad and daughter game day? So the Girl Scouts all came over. They had their dads with them, and I ran an adventure for them using some setting material that I had already created.
Sure.
As a GM, I tend to over prepare, and so in the process,
you and I are the opposite.
Yeah. Well, and in this case, it really paid off for me because by the time I had finished prepping for this event, I had a manuscript for a module.
Okay.
And so I kind of jokingly posted about it on Facebook that I'd got this, I forget how many words it was at that point, 13,000 words or something, and
that's not over preparing. That's making an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm writing a module. We're just happen to be playing through it.
Well, yeah, and that's basically what ended up happening. And so Jason, as he said, contacted me and said, "Hey, this looks cool. Would you like to publish it?" And I said, "Absolutely. That sounds great." So,
why not?
and that became Into the Feywield, which is the first of the Legendary Beginnings adventure products. It is one of the things that you can actually add on to your pledge and get a copy of it as part.
So is that like the pre-adventure for this Kickstarter?
It's not really. It's not a prequel. It's a first-level adventure,
okay.
And the Legendary Beginnings products in general are they're for lower-level characters. They're for beginning characters, so we don't get too complicated with all the options that different classes have can have. So that first-level adventure, and then the campaign itself for Trail of the Apprentice is 1st through 5th. So Into the Feywield isn't really a prequel. It's just their first taste of what the setting is like and some of the characters and places that are there.
Does that adventure, if you pledge for that, and we're going to go into the Kickstarter after this question, if you pledge and you get that extra adventure, is it level you to 2, or is it kind of a nice little buffer before you start this you start this adventure path?
Plot-wise, it's not connected to the adventure path. The adventure path itself, its first chapter starts you off being a character. So it's like it would be something you could play as if you wanted to play a practice round, you want to get a sense of what playing the game is like.
Sure.
Or you can use it afterwards. I mean, part of the idea is that you're creating a situation where people will want to create more games. This is sort of our.
So maybe run it separate or at another time or whatever, or at a convention or a one-shot or something. All right.
This is keep on the borderlands and search the unknown. This is kind of where we're going.
So let's talk about then Trail of the Apprentice. I'm looking over here because there's a second screen. That's where the light's coming from. Trail of Apprentice, Pathfinder, and 5e Saga for all ages. So you're saying all ages, but let's be honest, there has to be a starting point, right?
Yeah.
What age do you think this is really? What does it start off at? When do you see tabletop gaming and this adventure path being relevant for the younger crowd?
Well, I mean, tabletop gaming as a whole can be relevant as young as 4 or 5 years old, but
once they can talk, essentially.
Yeah, a lot of my experience and a lot of my design focus for these adventures has come from some conversations that I've had with some of the other folks in the industry. I had a really good conversation several years ago with Lisa Stevens and Ryan Dancy about their experiences with Wizards of the Coast and some of the things that they learned during their time there. And one of the things, but all that aside, one of the things that I really have seen is that there are a lot of kid-focused products, not necessarily game support materials, but products for role-playing games. But most of them are aimed at a much younger set than what I'm really looking for. I mean,
so you're looking like 8 to 12, 8 to 15 kind of thing?
That's about 8 to 12 and on up. I mean, these adventures are designed to be something that even someone who's older, who's just coming into the game, can still enjoy.
Like never played before kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, when we started, I mean, most folks don't start by having their parents teach them how to play. Most of us, when we started, were 10, 11, however old we were, and we came across this book that, introduced us to this really cool idea, and we ran with it.
Yeah, mine was my uncle's that I stole. Yeah, first edition books. I was like, these are cool, and I literally did what the guy was doing on the front taking the gym. I was like, I'm just going to use these, and I never gave them back. I still have them. Sorry, Uncle.
So that's kind of the idea, is that a 10-year-old should be able to pick this up, run with it, run the game if they want to, and that's kind of the whole. We simplify the rules a little bit. We focus on only really what you really need to know. So we've got the stat blocks are simplified. We take out a bunch of the extra stuff. You can use things like the beginner box. For the 5th edition products, obviously that design work is ongoing so that it's a full conversion. It's not just laying 5th edition rules on top of Pathfinder.
5th edition is a much, I don't want to say cleaner, but a less crunchy system.
Yeah.
Pathfinder. Yeah. So there's not, I don't feel as much you have to pull out and be able to run it. So now we'll talk about 5th, but with this, you guys are doing, it looks like 5 adventures, right?
Exactly.
All in the Trail of the Apprentice. Takes you from levels 1 to 5. All the names are on there. You guys can look through them if you want, when you're looking through it. I'm not going to list them here. But with those 5, how long is each one of these? Is this your typical 4 to 6 hour, like, one event? Or are these made to be longer, similar to Adventure Pass we've seen in the past, where it may be 2 or 3 sessions before you complete the book?
They're about... So yeah, they're about 2 or 3 sessions, depending on
each individual book, right?
Right. Okay. And the idea is that I've included areas where there are logical breakpoints. My vision would be that parents, if they're running these for their kids, could use this as a family game night.
So you play it once a week, twice a week with your kids, kind of thing, around a table for 2 hours or however long you can hold their attention span.
Exactly.
And then play, which, parents, your own kids enough to do that. That's not our job. So you have this. So what have you taken out of Pathfinder to make it easier, like you were saying? But also, are they available to be plugged back in, or do you recommend them being plugged back in after they've completed the books?
Well, you can play the adventures using the core Pathfinder rules if you want to. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't play straight with that. You can play them with the beginner mark style rules. Again, the 5th ed version. You can play them with just the starter set, or with the full-on 5e rule, which is the same rule structure, so there's more options.
Right.
So you can play it either way. And I should mention the side point: while these are designed for beginning gamers, they're really quite fun adventures. They're a little bit of a throwback, kind of an old school. It gives you some of that feeling of the kind of adventures that we played more in the early 80s, I think. And so
is it less of the dark and gritty, or the way too fantastical? Is this more about adventure and discovery and finding things and magic being magic, less about it murdering people, but more about doing out of this world kind of things? Is that more what you're going to see? So I'm thinking Trail of the Apprentice, someone's playing a wizard.
Yeah. And on Apprentice, I've had a few questions on that, and Paris could speak to this too. But the Trail of the Apprentice, like, who's the Apprentice? The Apprentice is the Apprentice to what? Let's imagine if you were thinking Harry Potter. Somewhere out there's Voldemort, right?
Sure.
And Voldemort has disappeared, but Voldemort's apprentice is still hanging around and is trying to bring Voldemort back, or is trying to go and seize Voldemort's power. That is the key villain of this campaign. Now, at the beginning of the adventure, you're not taking on Voldemort. You're not a Harry Potter the Chosen One.
I sure as hell hope I'm not.
But Voldemort's lieutenant is still working. You're chasing down Peter Pettigrew. You're chasing down, whoever, Lucius Malfoy, one of these people that is trying to rise up in the place of what used to be this bad guy. So it's someone who is within your grasp, but still someone who has some juice. You need to be able to figure out what in the heck's going on, and then once you found out, then you've got to track it down. So you are on the trail of the Apprentice. Just to explain the title, that's the kind of the core thrust of the sweep of the campaign.
Cool. So you guys got the 5. You're basically chasing down the bad guy's sidekick, or the bad guy's apprentice. That's what you're doing. What have you added in this? So a lot of times when we see Adventure Pass, we see things, or adventure strings, we see things get added, like new feats, new classes, new anything like that. With this, with it being beginner stuff, are you not adding new mechanics? Are you more adding a world for them to play in? I mean, what do they get with this? It's a venture, obviously. It's a good story. Is there any extra stuff they can expect with this? Like, because you're following this trail, we have some feats and skills and some unique spells that you can take. What are you guys doing to kind of harness that part of the RPG side?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is as you mentioned, the setting. The setting where these adventures take place, I wrote them so that you could potentially move them into other places. If you've got a favorite setting, you can still play it there. I kind of made some revelations about some of the great places in other settings where you could actually run this adventure. But
where
the
you
setting
can kind of plug it in.
Yeah. But the setting that I've created is called Terralian, and one of the things that's a little bit different about this is that it's not the traditional pseudo-medieval fantasy.
Okay.
It borrows from the aesthetic of colonial America as opposed to the medieval world.
So are you seeing more of the firearms, more mass production of clothing, things along that side?
Exactly. Yes. And the architecture, the style of clothing, magic still exists. There's still all that kind of stuff there, but it's laid over top of a more modern and in a lot of cases for a lot of people more familiar kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of like that middle ground between really high fantasy and being, modern warfare.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so, and as a result of that, we've got some things that we're doing a little bit differently. And as part of our backer goals, we just announced today, if we can get 10 more backers at this point, Matt Goodall is going to be doing a beginner version of the Gunslinger from the Pathfinder rules. So there will be guns and firearms, and we'll talk about a little bit about how that's going to be included.
Linda Zayas Palmer already approved for her back rolls already been reached for doing a version of the Alchemist class.
Right, which fits very well.
Right, and we also may be throwing in witches, because witches and hags and things like that play a role in kind of the folklore setting.
Okay.
And so some of what we're building out is about the setting and also where that crossover. So we do have BJ Henson doing some new magic items. Mike Wellham is doing some new monsters. So we are also building out the world and the replayability of what you might do in the campaign. So the idea is, in part, yes, here's the straight product you can play through, but it also is like those early D&D adventures that you would get in the basics out of the expert set, where you're teaching yourself how to create your own adventures. You're teaching yourself how to run your own game. And one thing Paris has written in there are a lot of kind of advice sidebars of here's how you might play this. Here's how you might, run a chase scene. Here's how you deal with traps. Here's what this kind of an encounter or character is like. And so it's something you can run with and read through. And, and as you said, kids can play this with themselves. They don't necessarily need to have an adult sitting there and explaining.
Maybe they run the first book and then the kids run the rest of the books and they kind of hand it off. That was going to be my next question. So since this being a new adventure, we take for granted that we know how to study an adventure and run an adventure. Are you guys including some way to teach new people, have it be a dad or a mom passing on to the son or daughter, on how to actually do this or run it?
We do talk a little bit about how to portray different characters and some ideas about how to use NPCs.
Sure.
Some of the sidebars that I talk about are things like why the adventure is put together, why certain parts of the adventure are put together in a certain way, why was this location built this way, so that they can get a sense of where their focus should be, and if they want to use that to build an adventure of their own later on, because we always. How players are. I mean, they're going to go off on their tangents, and if they decide they aren't interested in what the Apprentice is doing, then there are other options there. Hey, there's in every adventure there's these things that they've run across that they might want to pursue instead. And if that's the case, then the GM is going to need to know how to build some stuff, and so the sidebars kind of help them do that as they go.
And I'm assuming how to do a call to action to kind of bring them back into the event after they've done what they wanted to do. Excellent. So, all right. So let's break down a little bit of the goals. So, what is the pledge level you need to be at to get the PDFs, all of them, and what's the pledge level you need to be at to get them all as books? What's the dollar level?
The PDF, if you just want to dip your toe in, you just want to try the first adventure, that's $6. If you want to get all 5 adventures and the compilation of everything, that's $30.
Okay.
That includes all bonus goals, whatnot. That also includes art and map folios of all the adventures.
And those will all be PDF as well, I assume.
Yeah, those all PDFs. If you want to, that's something we had a great positive response. People to really like being able to kind of show off that great art without having to put their hands over the page.
As a designer and someone who GMs a lot and competes and does stuff, having a visual aid that I can just take my surface and flip and show somebody and turn it over, and amazing. So map folios and stuff like that are excellent.
Yeah, so they'll all get that. That's at $30. The print level is for $50, and that is for a single print compilation of either Pathfinder or 5th
So one big fat book.
Yeah, and I should say that we've done a lot of Kickstarters, and one of the things we've learned is that less is more when it comes to reward level. So instead of having one separate pledge level for every possible combination, it's like, no. One for one PDF, one for all the PDFs, one for all the books. You can tell us in the backer survey whether you want Pathfinder or 5th edition. There is a separate pledge level since we offer a little discount if you get both. We have had some people pledging in who want both Pathfinder and Five, which is great. We do have some higher pledge levels if you want to get a deluxe kind of hardback with higher quality of, excuse me,
ink and print and stuff.
All of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And we have like an extra deluxe version, which has a bunch of little fun swag items, a nice book bag, some character sheets, a Legendary Games color changing mood pencils.
Is that the Emperor's Pledge?
Yeah, that's the Emperor's Pledge. So if you want some of that fun bonus stuff there, we do have some of those, and that's something we like to offer out there. As a general rule, I'm not super big on all the crazy swag that some Kickstarters go in on, because I think that kind of distracts from your focus. But I don't mind having a few pledges at the top where,
sure,
look, if you really want to go for it, we can make that happen. And people seem to like that enough to make it worth their while and our while. So, and Rachel Ventura, my business director, she's found some great sources for some of these things.
I thought she was here tonight. I sent her a link as well, an accident.
And this, one thing I should point out also, I recently, there's a game store here in Seattle where I'm going to be using Trail with the Apprentice to run a D&D 5th edition D&D camp, summer camp, a couple times this
teaching
summer.
People over the summer?
Yeah, using this, and I'm going to do one for like ages 8 to 12, one for like ages like 11 to 14, and 15, something like that.
Is it going to be a sign-up for that?
Yeah, so it'll...
You should send me the link so I can put it in the show notes.
I will do that. It's for Meeple's Games, and I'll send you the info on that. But this is our first time doing it, so we're going to start out with a fairly small group, and maybe next summer,
sure,
when they expand it out, next summer we may even make it an adventure design camp where you'll spend the first day
teach them how to do it?
Yeah, you spend like one day playing an adventure, and then you sort of take it apart and say, all right, let's create a new one.
Okay.
But back to our program here.
Well, no, that's part of it. So let's talk about what's next to be hit. So you have a lot of sponsorships, things you can add, people you can look through that. Let's talk the bonus goals. So the next bonus goals, the one you hit, there is an 8,000, a 10,000, and a 12,000. The next one is 14,000.
Right.
With that, you're going to commission an artist to create a new cover, an illustration for the compilation. So you're going to get a brand new one. I'm assuming that's for the hardback version?
The hardback version, and I think we probably will also include it in the PDF compilation.
Just put it in with it, maybe?
Yeah. So one thing I'll say about this, Legendary Games really believes that you shouldn't have to wait, a year to get your stuff from a Kickstarter. So
no, you guys are usually far in a progression before this stuff even comes to Kickstarter, which is how it should be.
Yeah. So depending on the speed of layout, you should definitely be able to get the first adventure and hopefully the second adventure, and within a matter of days of Kickstarter ending, just as soon as we start getting the backer surveys.
Because that stuff takes time for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, so once we get the surveys and the information back, so whatever we're getting, you should be able to download stuff, more or less, right away, within a week. And the first 4 adventures are already completely written. They're just in various stages. We're getting the last few pieces of art. All the maps are done. The writing's done. The editing's done. The 5th edition conversions are mostly done. And we're just waiting on a few more pieces of art to come back. But we want you to get this stuff as soon as possible. Because that's how we appreciate you for hopping on board and helping out with the program.
Nice.
And so be excited. You'll be able to get stuff and turn it around right away. Likewise, the If the Feywield Paris' first adventure, that's available for right now. So we have people who have that as an add-on to their pledge. They'll be able to get that right away.
I'll tell you the first thing that needs to happen is the 250 backer goal needs to be hit, because a simplified version of the Gunslinger should just be the version of the Gunslinger. I hate the Gunslinger. I just don't like firearm rules in Pathfinder. They make it too complicated just to make it complicated for something that does damage.
Yeah.
Please make that happen. How many away are you of that?
Not too many. I think we've got 240 backers or so right now.
10 more people 10 more. In 4 days? That needs to happen. I just want a copy of that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate them so much. I've rewritten them like 4 times for my games because I use firearms. I do not like them at all. So now you guys have that, the stretch goals, the 5. I'm thinking if there's anything else, you guys have the 20 retweets. If you get 30 retweets, you're going to work with Battlebards and the sound team. What is this?
I'll let Paris take that one.
So Battlebards was another Kickstarter that came out. They're still in beta right now, but their battlebards.com site, you can go over there. They have hundreds of sound. There's music. There's sound effects. There's all sorts of stuff. And what they're going to do is we're going to put together basically what they call a soundboard or a sound set that basically has music and sound effects that would be appropriate for use in running the Trail of the Apprentice adventures. Then what you'll do is you can log onto their website. You set up your account, and then you'll be able to play those sounds during the adventure. They can do audio streaming. So if you use virtual tabletops, you can use that as well. Yeah. And it's pretty cool stuff. It's it's a little bit different format. It doesn't use a special app the way things like
there's tabletop
Sirenscape
or tabletop sound or something like that does like background music, which I use all the time in my games. They're amazing. This looks like it's a very similar concept where you're just clicking and playing audio boards. So Star Wars has something like that. Oh no,
and it's they've got some good quality stuff. I played around with it. One of my favorites is that they have examples of people speaking different fantasy languages.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if you want to hear what someone sounds like speaking Infernal, it's kind of fun.
And this is just for their website, so you're going to work with them to build audio clips needed or representational of the adventure paths.
Exactly, and then they're gonna use some of our art to create a special soundboard, basically a branded soundboard that that is fit for Trail of the Apprentice and uses our those logos and stuff. So it should be pretty cool.
All right, so we're near the 30-minute mark, but I want to go through a few Q&As really quick, and then we'll cut the show up here. I saw a kid just walk in. Does he play?
That's my son Miles, and he's 11, and he does play. Most during summer breaks, it's hard to find time with homework. His school goes till almost 5 o'clock. But yeah,
because school nowadays is way more homework than when we were kids.
But yeah, he does play. We've used the Pathfinder Beginner Box, and he and some of the kids on the street play as well.
Awesome.
And look, I've played with my oldest one is 21 now, and my kids, we used to play, they were as early as maybe 7 years old or so when we started playing, 6 years old, something like that. So we played plenty and tons, and my now 18-year-old, he's been playing in my regular Friday group for like 4 or 5 years now.
Cool. All right, so I'm going to do questions. These are great. Whoever has the answer, just go. Or if you both do, you can. We'll keep them kind of short and sweet. But someone asked at the local place I was eating. I went through. It's a gaming area. Talking to them about this coming up and what the Kickstarter is, and both of them have kids, have younger kids. Like one's 6, I think the other one has an 8-year-old. And I asked them, what do you think about it? And they asked, well, what makes a good adventure for kids? So what makes me wanting to get this, and what makes an adventure good for kids, and not just acceptable? We all know the G through R ratings, but what makes it fun for a kid? What hooks them and keeps them playing?
My experience has been a couple of things. Interesting characters and a clear storyline. Kids can easily get overwhelmed when there are a lot of different options and a lot of different nuances of things that they have to figure out. So knowing what the objective is right up front is really helpful. And then knowing with each encounter, okay, going from one encounter to the next, what's the next step? Helping them figure out what those decisions are without having too many options helps keep them on track, I think, is the biggest thing that I've seen.
Yeah, another thing is having different things for them to do. There's something that I think Paris Adventures do very well is there is combat in it, absolutely, but it's not only combat. There are sometimes needed to talk. There are more physical challenges, traps, or puzzles you have to overcome. So there's a variety of different things for you to do, and there are occasions to interact with people. And the way that this adventure series is set up, it scaffolds up so that there are gradually somewhat more options as you go along. You get used to how to play.
Learning decision making.
Yeah. First adventure, much simpler, much more linear. By the 5th adventure, you've got some more options, you've got some more room, because by that time you've been playing a little while and you have more ability to hop on there and just go.
Yeah.
And then the one other thing that I would say that is making sure that your characters are the heroes.
Yeah.
We don't need dark fantasy.
Not at age 8. Maybe at 21, but not at age 8. All right, so that was the first one. The next one that someone had asked about, let me pull this one up. Are you giving the GMs a good set of checklist, a quick overview or outline that they can look at as they're running their kids through. Because you're handling kids, you're dealing a lot more with them than you are being able to look at the book. So do you have like an easy-to-use format or layout to make this easier to do?
So with the layout, as far as a checklist, I don't have a checklist per se. I make sure that every adventure has a very clear overview of the story when they're starting out. And one of the things that I did do, specifically for the reason of making it easy to run, is that every encounter has full stat blocks for the creatures that you encounter in that encounter.
Versus looking them up and having them next to you.
Exactly.
Cool.
It's just easier for than having to flip to a different book or go to a different page, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's been done over the years in design to condense space for printing purposes. But for a beginner adventure, yeah, I agree. I think having the stats there that you can look at and write on it is kind of the way to go. Post-it notes are your best friend if you're doing this and you've never done it before. So that was the other one. Then we had. Are you going to be running these at any of the conventions? So, for example, Gen Con. Sounds like a lot of these will be out by that time. Are you guys going to have any events sign up, or are you going to be running them at your booth, or any private ones where the parents can come with their kids and play?
We will be running at least one session at PaizoCon in May. Cool. I don't think that we have signed up for any Gen Con slots yet, but there is still time to sign up. That's why I have to check with Rachel and see what our bandwidth is and our volunteer chorus. If you'd like to run one, let me know. No, I'll see about getting you hooked up.
I don't know if I'm quite the GM to run kids. I'm just saying.
Maybe.
I was a youth leader. I did my time.
Yes. But definitely we'll be running at PaizoCon, and we may be running at Gen Con also. And if any of your listeners are interested in running this in a kids track at any of their local cons, we would love to hook you up with some products. So, by all means, we will be very interested in helping to get the word out, get the product out.
I will make a note for you.
That would be awesome.
So which email would you like them to contact, you or Rachel?
Contact makeyourgamelegendary@gmail.com.
All right. I'll put that in. And then what was the other really big question here? Pre-generated characters. So one of the hardest things for people to learn to do is make characters. It's super, especially in Pathfinder, ridiculously time-consuming. I still have to really take time to make characters. What are you doing to kind of strip that extra work away, but letting the kids still have a say in what the characters are? How do you recommend handling that, or have you done something to handle that?
Well, we'll be creating pre-generated characters so you can play it right out of the box. And these will be laid out in a similar fashion to what you see in the Pathfinder beginner box. So with a simplified and more spread out and labeled kind of an instructive character sheet. And so they'll be able to have characters right there as their sample characters. We'll also be including in the compilation, blank character sheets, because once you have tried playing with your own characters, sort of seen what does it mean to advance characters. Once you've been at it a little while, then you're in a place where you can say, okay, I want to try something else. And again, we're not necessarily having every possible character, class, and race combination out there, but you've got your core set of things available to you, and people will have them out there. So it is not necessarily our intent to. I guess people could if they want to. And look, when I was 10 years old, I'd have been more than happy to make my own character. But everybody comes out at a different level. So
correct.
We're providing the option to do it either way. You can either use characters, right out of the box, or out of the book, I suppose, or you can create your own using the blank sheets, using whichever of the systems it is that you like to use.
I'm assuming you guys are going to have custom art kind of for each one of these characters so people know what they look like to help these kids out.
Yep.
Awesome.
That is the plan.
Awesome. So other than that, I don't have any other questions from the audience. I have one more question, though. So you guys have designed these 5. They're all going to go into one book. You said you organized it so it makes sense. It's clean to run, and so on. Are you guys going to be releasing, where's it at here? You have all your pledge levels. and you have your add-ons. Are any of these add-ons including something like a GM helping guide? Like, do you have a stretch goal for helping GMs with this adventure path?
Not my other son, Alan. He's 18 now, but he's been gaming with me since he was with my regular group. He was 13 or so. He's a video game maniac too.
Hey man, I hear you. I do both.
Beat it. But sorry. As far as the GM's helping guide, we may be able to put that in there as one of the stretch goals. We'll just have to see how far this thing goes.
Or maybe something like on your guys' website or a blog post or something like that.
Yeah, we can definitely create a sort of GM's checklist of your simple guide.
Print it off and be like, yep, they accomplished this and this, this, and we know where we're going. Excellent. Well, that's it for me. Is there any anything for you guys? I'm excited that you guys already hit your stretch goal, and I've noticed more kid-oriented stuff coming out for RPGs. Monty Cook Games have done something similar. No More Evil, they did theirs. Or No Thank You Evil, sorry, wrong terms. And that did really well. You guys are doing this. Do you got any parting suggestions or words besides, obviously, come pledge and see what we have to offer?
Well, I'll start with come pledge and see what we have to offer. That's a great word. But seriously, if you see other folks out there who are doing games, BJ Hensley, who does layout for us, she's also got her series of playground adventures. So by all means, check out her work there. It's very cool. Check out No Thank You Evil, and find kids in your neighborhood. Find kids. If you've got your own kids, by all means, introduce them to the hobby. It's a great hobby, and we love it. I can give you a little exclusive sneak peek of our $16,000 stretch goal. If we get there, we are planning to create some face cards.
Okay, cool.
PDF or printed for our key NPCs and villains.
So you can hold them up and show them what they look like.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and that's on our list of things to do if we get a good response to the last part of the adventure. Spill the water. But yeah, we're excited about this. It's a different kind of project, and one of the things I've always tried to do with Legendary Games is to make sure that we put our hands on a lot of different things. So we aren't just stuck doing one style of game, one kind of game, one system of game,
right,
or one genre of game. And it's an area that I think is a growth area for RPGs in general. It's a great hobby. It's something that's fun for kids. It's something I used to be an elementary school teacher among my many former paths. And it's a great thing for teaching reading, teaching math, teaching, teamwork skills, and teaching that behavior has consequences. My son Miles and his friend, they were playing an early adventure. They got mad at one of the NPCs and pushed him down a cliff. And you know what? Behavior has consequences. The NPC got mad and pushed them down the cliff instead. They had to find their own way out of it.
And he's wearing Star Wars, so I already like him.
What's happening?
Yeah, see? But other than that, check out the Kickstarter. It's a great time, and I think you will be very excited about what you say. Ferris, you got any last words?
No, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's supporting us. This has been a passion project of mine for a long time. And I'm just really, really grateful to Legendary Games for bringing me on to allow me to bring this out and to put so many great artists and cartographers and editorial and layout team on this project. It's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with everybody.
Yeah, guys, you're doing something awesome that I myself am not somebody who doesn't have kids, but I have so many friends that do, and the first thing they complain about in the gaming hobby is not having adventures to run with their children. They're used to playing with adults, and trying to dial it down into a different level is something they're not used to. So the fact that you're bringing this to them is pretty amazing. I'm excited to see where you guys go with this, and then when you guys get it done, I want to look into it. Also, remember, guys, if you haven't run games before and you're learning to run games, YouTube has got a vast amount of things to teach, but you can pledge for $6, get the PDF, and have the first adventure to run and decide if it's something that you and your kid want to do. Or honestly, I've seen a lot of couples lately with their kid have the parents over and whatever their kids are and run it as a group. It can be a really good activity at night, and then the parents are entertained and they're not watching Barney or Sesame Street. Just saying. You don't have to run it at night, man. Run it during the day if you have to.
Yeah. Now, I'll say one of the things was just that if for whatever reason, it was just tax day, you got no money in your account right now, if you want to drop $1 on the pledge you can help us reach our number of backer goals that are just based on number of backers. But also, when we send out the backer surveys, you can say, I get paid on the 30th. Can I hit you up then? We are always more than happy to do after Kickstarter pledges.
Yep.
Through PayPal. So
Kick
we
it back after.
Yeah, and people have all kind of circumstances. So for within a couple of weeks after Kickstarter,
it's pretty simple. I'll summarize it. And your tax return comes back after 4 days.
Yeah. So
I just did mine today. It was like 20 something hours of tax returns. It was a pain in the butt. But yeah, for sure. So thank you, Legendary Games, for being on. Paris for joining us. Maybe we'll do a follow-up after this, after you guys get it going. You guys should really maybe do a live play.
Okay. Yeah, sounds great.
Do like a small live play with get a couple. You guys both have kids. It's not like it's gonna be hard to find kids. And do like a quick 1 hour, 2 hour play of like your favorite spot in one of the adventures. I think that'd be awesome to see for people who don't know what they're getting.
Cool.
All right, guys. Thank you, and thank you for joining Refresh and Reload for this. If you guys stay on for a minute, I'll ask a couple questions afterwards. But everybody else, have a great night. I would show you what I'm drinking, but this is a kids program today, so it just seems weird.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Eric.